A delivery driver shows up at a wealthy neighborhood, carrying packages with a smile despite the pouring rain. He's just doing his job, ensuring everyone gets their orders on time. But as he approaches the door of one particular house, he's greeted by hostility instead of gratitude. A woman steps out, eyeing him up and down, her tone sharp and dismissive. "Why are you here?" She sneers, making it painfully clear her problem isn't with the delivery but with the person delivering it. She hurls insults, questioning his presence in her neighborhood, mocking his uniform, and making degrading assumptions about his background. The driver stays calm, his professionalism unshaken, but there's something she doesn't know: this isn't just any delivery driver. He's not just an employee running errands for someone else. He owns the entire company. What happens next will shock you and make you think twice about judging someone by their appearance. This isn't just a story about racism, it's about resilience, integrity, and a lesson this woman will never forget. The rain fell harder as the delivery driver stood at the doorstep, clutching the package tightly. His calm demeanor contrasted with the storm brewing in front of him. The woman's eyes darted over him with disdain, her posture rigid with judgment. "You're not from around here, are you?" she said, her tone dripping with condescension. "This is a private neighborhood. People like you don't belong here." He took a deep breath, letting her words hang in the air. Years of experience had taught him to maintain composure, even in the face of hostility. "Ma'am, I'm just here to deliver your package," he said, his voice steady and polite. He extended the box toward her, but she didn't move to take it. "Don't lie to me," she snapped, folding her arms. "There's no way someone like you works for a reputable company. Who even hired you? I bet you don't even have the proper credentials." She smirked, as if expecting him to cower under her accusations. But he didn't flinch. Instead, he stood tall, his calm gaze meeting hers. "Ma'am, I assure you, the package is from the company you ordered from. If you'd like, I can show you the confirmation details," he offered, pulling out his phone. She scoffed, waving him off. "I don't need to see anything from you," she said, her voice rising. "In fact, I want to speak to your manager. Right now." The delivery driver's lips curved into a faint, almost imperceptible smile. "Are you sure about that?" he asked, his tone still respectful. The woman frowned, taken aback by his response. "Yes, I'm sure." "Call them. I want to know why they're sending people like you to my house." The driver hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "All right," he said, reaching into his pocket. He dialed a number and held the phone to his ear. As it rang, the woman crossed her arms, glaring at him with a look of smug satisfaction. On the other end of the line, a voice answered, and the driver spoke. "Hi, it's me. I'm at the residence of one of our customers. She'd like to speak with the owner of the company." The woman raised an eyebrow, confused by his phrasing. Before she could question it, the driver extended the phone toward her. "Here you go, ma'am. The owner is ready to speak with you." Her expression shifted from arrogance to suspicion. She grabbed the phone, placing it to her ear. "Hello? Are you aware of the type of people you're hiring?" she began, her voice sharp. There was a pause as the person on the other end responded. The woman's face twisted in confusion, then disbelief. "What do you mean?" she stammered. Her eyes darted back to the driver, who stood silently, his expression unreadable. The realization hit her like a ton of bricks. She lowered the phone, staring at him as if seeing him for the first time. "You're the owner?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The driver gave a small nod. "That's right," he said, his tone still calm but carrying a hint of steel. "I own the company. I started it from the ground up." The woman's face turned red, a mix of embarrassment and anger. "Well, that doesn't change the fact that you're standing here dripping water all over my porch," she snapped, trying to regain control of the situation. But the driver wasn't interested in her excuses or justifications. "I came here to do my job, ma'am," he said. "And I've done it. Your package is delivered. I'll be on my way now." As he turned to leave, the woman called after him. "Wait." "I didn't mean to," she started, but he didn't stop. The rain poured harder as he walked back to his van, his steps measured and deliberate. Inside, he sat for a moment, watching the house through the windshield. He could see her silhouette behind the curtains, pacing back and forth. This wasn't the first time he had faced someone like her, and he knew it wouldn't be the last. But he also knew that her behavior said more about her than it ever could about him. Meanwhile, inside the house, the woman was spiraling. She had always prided herself on being in control, but now she felt exposed, her prejudices laid bare. She glanced at the package sitting on the table, a stark reminder of her encounter with the man who had completely upended her assumptions. She couldn't shake the memory of his calm, unwavering presence. It gnawed at her, forcing her to confront the uncomfortable truth about her actions. But instead of reflecting, she began plotting how to salvage her dignity. Little did she know, her words and actions hadn't just left an impression on the delivery driver. They had also been captured on a nearby security camera. The footage was about to take on a life of its own, sparking conversations and debates far beyond the confines of her pristine neighborhood. The tension was far from over, and the ripples of this encounter were only beginning to spread. The rain continued to fall as the delivery driver sat in his van, reflecting on the encounter. He wasn't angry, he had long since learned to let such moments roll off his back, but he couldn't ignore the lingering sting of her words. He thought about how many others in his position might not have the same resilience or resources to confront this kind of treatment. Meanwhile, inside the house, the woman was pacing, her nerves frayed. She kept glancing at the package on the table, almost wishing it would disappear. Her mind raced, replaying the interaction. She couldn't understand how she had gotten it so wrong. The realization that she had insulted not just a delivery driver but the owner of the company gnawed at her. It wasn't just embarrassing, it was a wake-up call. But the situation was far from over. The security footage of the incident, captured by a neighbor's camera, had already been uploaded to social media by someone who had seen everything. Within hours, the video began to gain traction. Comments poured in, ranging from outrage at the woman's behavior to admiration for the driver's composure. Unaware of the growing storm online, the woman decided to write an email to the company, hoping to smooth things over. She framed her message as an apology, though it was riddled with justifications and excuses. She didn't truly own up to her behavior. Instead, she attempted to downplay the incident, claiming it was all a misunderstanding. The driver, sitting in his office later that evening, read her email. He sighed, recognizing the half-hearted attempt for what it was. He considered ignoring it but decided to respond. His reply was brief and professional, but he made it clear that her actions had been inappropriate and that such behavior would not be tolerated toward his staff or anyone else. As the days passed, the video continued to spread. News outlets picked up the story, and the woman's identity was eventually revealed. She found herself at the center of a media frenzy, with reporters knocking on her door and her social media accounts flooded with messages. Some were harsh and unforgiving, while others urged her to reflect and make amends. The pressure became too much for her to ignore. One evening, she sat down and watched the footage herself. Seeing the incident from another perspective was jarring. The hostility in her voice, the sneer on her face, it was all laid bare. For the first time, she felt a pang of genuine remorse. The next morning, she reached out to the delivery company again, this time requesting a face-to-face meeting with the owner. She wanted to apologize in person. The driver hesitated when he received the request, unsure if it was worth his time. But after some thought, he agreed. They met at a local coffee shop, a neutral space where neither would feel at an advantage. She arrived first, nervously clutching her handbag. When he walked in, she stood awkwardly, unsure whether to offer a handshake. He nodded politely and took a seat across from her. "I owe you an apology," she began, her voice shaky. Not just for what I said, but for the way I treated you. It was wrong. I was wrong. The driver listened silently, his expression calm but unreadable. She continued, explaining how the incident had forced her to confront her own biases. I don't expect forgiveness, she said. But I want you to know that I'm committed to doing better. After a long pause, he finally spoke. I appreciate you saying that, he said. But words alone aren't enough. Change takes action. If you're serious about doing better, you'll need to prove it not to me, but to yourself and the people around you. His words lingered in her mind long after their meeting. She decided to take them to heart. Over the next few months, she began volunteering with organizations that promoted diversity and inclusion. She attended workshops and listened to stories from people whose experiences were far different from her own. Slowly but surely, she began to change. For the delivery driver, life went on. He continued running his company with the same dedication and integrity that had brought him success. The incident became a reminder of why he had started his business in the first place, to create opportunities for people who, like him, had faced unfair judgments. The video eventually faded from the headlines, but its impact remained. It sparked conversations about privilege, prejudice, and the power of humility. For those who had witnessed the story unfold, it served as a powerful reminder to treat everyone with respect because you never know who someone truly is or what they're capable of achieving. And for the woman, it became a turning point. She didn't forget the shame of that rainy afternoon, but she used it as fuel to grow into a better person. It wasn't an easy journey, but it was one she was determined to take. In the end, the story wasn't just about a racist encounter or a delivery driver who owned the company. It was about the choices we make when faced with our own shortcomings and the courage it takes to change.